Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening. Recording this on a Monday afternoon. Just want to get into some of the main sports headlines that we experienced this week. Starting with the Australian Open, we had the Australian Open finals. Congratulations to Rybakina defeating number one ranked Sabalenka, who was the heavy favorite going into the match. So Rybakina definitely turned a couple of heads. With her play style, she is a Russian-born Kazakhstani tennis player, currently ranked number 3, and has 2 majors now. She won the 2022 Wimbledon and the 2026 now Australian Open. Defeated the number 1 ranked Aryna Sabalenka from Belarus, and who has 4 majors. She won the Australian Open twice, the US Open twice. She was also a finalist at the French Open back in 2025 and semifinalist at the Wimbledon 2021, 2023, 2025. Ranked the number 1 player for good reason. She was, as previously mentioned, the heavy favorite going into the match. And given her post-game interview, she was definitely, I wouldn't say completely speechless, but definitely shocked. I think she also was expecting to win. She is definitely a more powerful player than the much leaner, I would say smaller Rybakina. But congratulations to her. And then on the men's side, boy, oh boy, oh boy, we had Carlos Alcaraz defeating Novak Djokovic in 5 sets. Djokovic, he had a walkover. I believe it was back in the 3rd round. So he got an extra day of rest there. And then he played a 5-setter against Giannis Sinner. A hell of a match. He fended off 16 of 18 break points. So it really felt like Djokovic was, he was pushing and playing as hard as he could. Not saying Sinner wasn't by any means, but you could tell Djokovic was really, he wanted it, and he's pushing hard. But then he meets Alcaraz in the final. It ends up being a 4-setter. Djokovic took the first set 6-2. I think Djokovic came out, his serve was on point. He was making great passing shots. And it just took Alcaraz, a set to kind of wake up. And he, in the second set, you could see Alcaraz just was doing what Alcaraz does. He was starting to run around the court, covering basically every inch of the court. Getting his racket on everything, just unbelievable. And you could see, I felt it got a little bit into Djokovic's head. Djokovic starting to rack up his unforced errors in the second set. I believe he ended up with 46 on the match, which is kind of relatively uncharacteristic for him. And after that, Alcaraz kind of cruised. Second set, he took the second set 6-2, third set 6-3, and closed it out in the fourth set 7-5. So Djokovic, he was going for his 25th major, which would have put him alone at the top for most majors at 38 years old especially. But you watch these matches, and I think it's unbelievable what we're seeing right now in the tennis world, going from basically Nadal and Federer to breaking all of these records and being the 2 guys to absolutely beat. But at the same time, right in their shadow the whole time was Novak Djokovic, who has even surpassed him in a lot of areas. And he was 10 for 10 out of in finals at the Australian Open in Melbourne. So that was his first loss at a finals for the Australian Open. Unbelievable tennis player, incredible resume. We'll see if he comes back. He did mention in his post-match presser that, he was going to continue to fight. We'll see how much more he has, because it was unbelievable that he was able to beat Sinner already in the semis, but then to beat Sinner, and then Alcaraz. It's a tall task, not only for Djokovic, for any player at this point. But Djokovic being 38, having to go through Sinner, and then, the 22-year-old Alcaraz, who has already now completed the Grand Slam. He's won all 4 majors, which puts him on a very short list of highly touted tennis players. So Alcaraz wins over Djokovic in the Australian Open final. That was because they play in Australia. It was, I believe it was 3:30 a.m. Eastern time, so not super favorable for us in the U.S., but definitely worth checking out the highlights, extended highlights. Incredible match. These guys hit the ball so freaking hard. Unbelievable. What I really do want to get into, though, is the Bucks, not only because I'm obviously a Bucks fan, but the Giannis talks, the Giannis trade talks, the rumors, and there's been a lot of circulation going around, and I just want to put in my 2 cents. And as it stands right now, Giannis, self-diagnosed injury, is still going to be out for a couple of weeks at least. I still don't think we have an official timetable, but he's sitting right now. And the trade talks and the rumors have definitely intensified, especially with the trade deadline coming up this week, February 5th. So I don't think that the Bucks are going to move on from Giannis this week by the trade deadline, just because I honestly think for the Bucks it would be, and for the suitors, whatever team would acquire Giannis in said trade, it's almost kind of a lose-lose situation. Hear me out. Because of his injury right now, his draft or his trade capital might not be as high as it would be if he were to be healthy. Because let's remind ourselves, Giannis, as much as we love him and as incredible of a player as he is, he's a 30-year-old big with a lot of miles. And the fact that he got injured, he already has an injury history, and the fact that he's injured now during the regular season for the second time, sitting a long stretch, multiple weeks, it doesn't look so good. So I feel if there was a legitimate team making an offer, it might not be as good of an offer from the Bucks perspective if we can sit, or if they decide to sit Giannis, rest him, or even if he does want to come back this season. We'll get into that in a minute, but essentially allowing him the off season to get healthy again, to get in the motions again, and that way, the Bucks, John Horst, and we can point at Giannis and, say, hey, look what we got. Look how good he still is. Who wants him? Kind of shopping him out a little bit in that regard. And there are a couple teams that have surfaced, and I want to get into this real quick. The Heat, the Warriors, the Knicks, and now the Timberwolves have apparently all been rumored to have interest in trading for the Bucks. Without getting into how they would make it work and what would need to be acquired, what would need to be given up, how to make Giannis go to the Heat. There would be a need to be a third team. Let's bring in the Raptors. I've heard it all. I've heard everything. And I'm saying these teams, honestly, it's like, not only from a fan's perspective, but from a front office perspective, from the Milwaukee's perspective, all of these teams are essentially, I think it's like trying to force a square peg in a circular hole. These teams do not. Now, if these teams are on the list because these are the teams that are preferred by Giannis, well, then at some point you have to say, hey, listen, you can have your cake, but you can't eat it too. We love Giannis. He brought us a championship, first championship in 50 years. He's done incredible amount for the city of Milwaukee. He says all the time how much he loves Milwaukee. It's really a perfect relationship. But now if he wants to move on, if he wants to take the next step in his career, we can try to accommodate. Milwaukee can try to accommodate, but at the same time, hey, we're still a franchise. We still need to think about our future. We can't just completely give up. I'm not going to accept getting Tyler Hero and a first rounder plus Khalil Ware for Giannis to go to the Heat. No. Because he wants to go to Miami. Just not happening. Same thing with the Warriors. Every contract that people are talking about with the Warriors basically includes the big question is, well, does Jimmy Butler come over? I mean, you kind of have to put Jimmy Butler in there. I don't want Jimmy Butler. What is he going to be like? Oh, he's closer to 40 than he is 30. And he's injured now. He's out for the season. I mean, what is he going to come back like next year? No value. Jimmy Butler, if we're talking Jimmy Butler 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, all right, I'm listening. But there's the Warriors and Podziemski. Listen, not to take away anything from Brandon. He's a great basketball player, but he's not a player that I'm looking at if I'm entering into rebuild mode. Kuminga, no thank you. Kuminga, that is the difference between a solid front office and borderline, what can you say, elite front office. When you have a player like Jonathan Kuminga, they could have shopped him out 2 years ago, and they could have. There was a lot of circulation around Kuminga and how good he was, and what his potential was, what his ceiling was, and there were just bright spots. Check, check, check. They could have shopped him. They could have traded him. They could have gotten a haul in return for Kuminga, but they stuck with him. Had they traded him at his peak value two years ago, I mean, they would definitely be the ones laughing now. And that could have potentially brought in a haul that would have allowed to have more pieces available to potentially make a legitimate ask at Giannis. But Brandon and Jonathan and Jimmy Butler, Milwaukee, we don't want these guys. Nothing against them. But if we're going to rebuild, those aren't the guys we're looking at. And the Knicks, you think we want Cat? You think Cat is a good trade? Oh, it will be plus a couple things and another player or two with some player options to even out the contracts and, a pick here. I don't even know what the Knicks picks are like, but Cat is not the answer either. I mean, he's a phenomenal player when he's playing well. He's a great player, but then if he steps up to the line and he misses a three-pointer, it's like it takes the air out of the entire arena. It's like when Cat is playing bad, everybody knows Cat is playing bad. And now the Timberwolves have surfaced as the fourth team as well because, I don't know, apparently Ant and Anthony Edwards and Giannis are good friends and they've been wanting to play together. This is kind of the first that I've heard a little mumblings of this, but no. Any trade to this is my thought on the Minnesota Timberwolves. First of all, if Giannis is actually considering and is open to going to the Timberwolves in that scenario, then basically what is that saying to us is that he is open to going to a smaller market team. He doesn't need to go to Miami. He doesn't need to go to San Francisco. He doesn't need to go to New York. If he's open to going to Minnesota, he is open to being shopped around. And that trade would have to include Gobert. I don't want Gobert. I mean, I get it. Statistically, the Timberwolves are so much better on defense when Gobert is on the court than when he's not. The numbers show it. Numbers don't lie. But I don't want Gobert in Milwaukee. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm sorry that I'm not sorry. I don't want Gobert. Gobert is not a solution for a rebuild for this Milwaukee team. So now I'm going to suggest something a little crazy that I haven't heard too much about. But a team that finally is getting some attention, who just took the lead as I speak over the Pelicans It is the fourth quarter, 7 minutes to go, a little over 7 minutes to go, and they're up 85-82. And that is the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets, let me read to you. Let's just look at real quick what their draft capital is. In 2026 coming up, they have a first rounder, they have a second round. 2027, they have 4 first-round picks, a second rounder. 2028, and that's right, 2027, 4 first-round picks. 2028, they have their first and second. 2029, they have 2 first-rounders again, 2 second-rounders. They have a treasure chest. And given what their team looks like right now, now I get it's Giannis. You're going to have to give up a lot. Well, the Milwaukee Bucks are going to be asking for a lot. And everybody wants the Paul George type deal where you get a handful of picks and you get a blue chip talent like Shai. There were high expectations for Shai, but we couldn't realistically have thought that he was going to be the best player or arguably one of the best players in the NBA. He was definitely a blue chip talent that had a lot of upside to him. And that is the type of deal that Milwaukee would probably and should be expecting, hoping for in return, or going for. Now, the Hornets, they have a slew of picks coming up next year. And after this year, the Bucks don't have any first-round picks for the next 4 years. We will have our pick this year. We'll have a first-round pick, and we have the worst pick between the Pelicans and the Bucks. So whoever has the higher pick will be for the Bucks. But then next year we don't have, we don't have our picks back anymore. We have no picks. And next year the Hornets have 4 first-round picks. Pardon me, 3 first-round picks, 1 second-round pick. That is a lot of value that can look awfully enticing to a team that is going most likely to be looking at rebuilding in the scenario of dishing out Giannis. And as crazy as it sounds, you could even get away with 2, 3 maybe first-round picks. But if you're also willing to throw in maybe Diabate, or, as crazy as it sounds, maybe even LaMelo and a Kalkbrenner, hear me out. Super young team, very talented team. And LaMelo, he has an incredible, he's a phenomenal player. He's a lot of fun to watch. But sometimes he still does these backyard playing hustle with my brothers plays and decisions that can be a lot of fun to watch, but they're not going to win you a championship. These are the plays that in the playoffs you can't do this type of stuff. And that's where a lot of the talk is there. He's getting better. He's being more mature on the ball. And you can see that there has been some growth there. But there is still a lot of room for growth. So if you put this young cast, if you put Con Knipple, Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller, you put these guys, you surround them by Giannis, who brings in a bit of a veteran presence, who's a tall. This is a team I would not want to face, and I get it. They're fighting for a playoff spot right now. But given how they're playing and the talent they have, I absolutely would not be surprised that they make it in. And once you're in, you're in. And I would not want to play that. I would not want to face that team. That is a team that, if not this year, certainly next year, they are going to be scary. And they're a lot of fun to watch. If you haven't watched them, I'd suggest tuning into a game. And they have a commentator, Eric Collins. probably my favorite commentator. The Hornets are so entertaining. They're a lot of fun to watch. And could be it could be a suitable home for Giannis. Okay, but that is also in the event that Giannis walks. That's in that scenario, that would probably be pre-February 5th deadline. Or even you could work something out in the offseason. But before the February 5th deadline, it would give them a solid half season to get comfortable with each other and then have a full off season of getting it right, planning, and they could really hit the ground running in starting the 2026-2027 season, and they could be scary good. And I bring up the Minnesota Timberwolves because if he, as in Giannis, is open to going to the Timberwolves, well, then he should be open definitely to going to Charlotte. And I just feel everybody's forcing this Heat, Warriors, Knicks scenario. So in the event that that Giannis is still a Buck post February 5th, as much as he will not like to do it, this is where it comes back to having your cake and not being able to eat it as well. Then you shut him down. We have to shut down Giannis. We have to let him get healthy, fully healthy, and not force himself into another injury. This season is over. I hate to say it, but white flag. Tank. It is tank time. Tank City, USA. And then in the offseason, regardless of Giannis stays or goes, there needs to be changes. There need to be changes. I think we can probably shop around, see what we can get in return for Miles Turner. Gary Trent is probably going to be gone. Kuz is probably going to be gone. He's having a very good season. Could probably get a decent return for him, or throw him in, group him into a trade to get something quality in return, and see where our pick lands. And given the changes that are made there, then you can almost present to Giannis, hey, this is what we're rolling with. This is where we're going. How do you feel about this? Is this something you can work with? I think we need to keep Ryan Rollins. He's incredibly promising. I think there's definitely a player that you can work with. But we bring in young talent, fresh blood that hustle and want to play. And then at that point, if Giannis, who will be eligible to sign his contract extension October 1st, decides to stay or actually does want to leave, then at that point we can reassess and see, okay, he's healthy. At least we know that because we shut him down for the rest of the season. And once again, we can show the whole league and we can point fingers to him, say, hey, look what we got. Giannis he's still an NBA champion. He's still an all-star. He will still win you games. And then the haul that we can get back in return, okay. Now we're talking. Maybe the Bucks don't go through another 2-decade period of irrelevance. So ultimately, I think maybe the best solution is to shut down Giannis for the rest of the season. He's healthy in the offseason. You make changes. You get younger. You get fresh talent. Once again, showing Giannis that we're open and willing and wanting him to stay. And then if he stays, great. Then Doc Rivers, still in contract for the next year. I think his big positive is developing young talent. But if Giannis stays and we still have Ryan Rollins, and now we have a couple of, hopefully, new pieces, then Doc Rivers, as much as I hate to say it, because it's going to be another coach that is on the payroll. It's going to be Rivers. It's going to be Griffin. Add him to the list of we're paying 5 coaches instead of letting him play out his career. I don't even think Doc Rivers wants to be in Milwaukee anymore. Tank City, USA is a freaking dumpster fire right now. But then you need to seriously consider changing the coach as well. He's great at developing young talent, and I think if Giannis walks, if we get a haul in return for Giannis, then we can consider keeping Doc Rivers for a year to play out his contract or to coach out his contract and to develop the young talent. And then we look 2027, 2028, bringing on a new fresh coach, young coach, who can potentially make the Bucks relevant again. Because as much as once again, I hate to say it, if Giannis walks, we get a haul in return for him. I just don't see a scenario, if Doc is still our coach, that the Bucks remain a relevant team next season. Middling at best, bottom third, miss the playoffs again. No 2027 draft picks, depending on the haul for Giannis. So we'll see. We'll see by the February 5th deadline if Giannis stays or moves. I don't think he's going to move. So then you shut him down. You make changes. You see if Giannis is staying or not. Is Giannis staying? Yes. Doc Rivers, do we keep him? Do we find a new coach? I think we pivot to finding a new coach. If Giannis goes, we let Doc play out. We see what the haul we get for him. We let Doc play out his last year, coach out his last year, and we reassess with the talent that we got back for Giannis. So that's the big breakdown with the whole Giannis trade. I suppose a lot of people are talking about the All-Star game. I don't think I'm even going to watch. I don't know what's going on anymore. Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. I kind of wish that they didn't take this extra week off before the Super Bowl, but here we are. This is how they've done it. NFL knows best. So I guess we're going to be coming up on 18 games soon, I imagine, and extending the season for another week, which will in turn push back the Super Bowl for another week. But anyway, I think Sunday, Seahawks, Patriots. Sam Darnold has been playing very well. He's been playing extremely well. And if he doesn't have his Sam Darnold day, where he manages to throw 3 interceptions and fumble the ball twice and see ghosts, I really think the Seahawks pull through. Chris Gonzalez is most likely, I assume, is going to be blanketing JSN. If he can hold JSN under, I don't know, I just throw out a random yardage here, but if he can keep him around 80 yards, I think it definitely helps the Patriots' chances. But at the end of the day, if JSN has a 100-plus receiving yard game, two touchdowns, I just don't see a way that the Patriots overcome that. But if you can cap JSN, after that, I mean, you're looking at Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed, Kenneth Walker out of the backfield, catching some screenplays. Short passes, which is the linebacker play, has been questionable for the Patriots, so maybe that's a second half adjustment that they need to make. But if Sam Darnold keeps it clean, I just don't think Drake May keeps up with the efficiency that the Seahawks is playing at right now. Not only on offense, but the Seahawks defense is also much stronger than the Patriots defense. Much scarier. So the Seahawks -4.5 is the line right now. I think I might bite on that. Maybe I do another podcast later this week looking at a couple of bets. But ultimately, I think the Seahawks prevail I just can't see Drake May outplaying Sam Darnold and moving the ball efficiently on the Seahawks defense, especially considering what he has done in the playoffs so far. And I get it, snow globe games, but barring, once again, Sam Darnold doing a Sam Darnold game and having 4 turnovers, I just don't see it. I'd bet on the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. And on my Substack, I will be posting an article about Sam Darnold and how it is actually his 5th team. And on his 5th team, he goes to the Super Bowl, which is a very rare circumstance in itself. Look back at some of the stats that he put up when he was with the Jets, then the Panthers, then a backup at the 49ers, and then the Vikings. And then we saw that the Vikings GM just got released. You know, I've heard some people refer to that as the Sam Darnold effect, because now the quarterback you let walk is in the Super Bowl, and the Vikings defense also was stout and was looking good, especially towards the back half of last season. So only one can imagine what if you had a Sam Darnold at the helm as opposed to 9-inch hands J.J. McCarthy. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. For those of you listening, be sure to catch my Substack at PMUI to check out that Sam Darnold post, and we will see you next week.